Video games are taken a lot more seriously nowadays than they once were, and for good reason too. Portraying complex character or world-based stories in a medium where there's an intimate connection between the consumer and the media they are consuming due to the aspect of control they have over it just makes sense. You can live vicariously through watching characters in a movie, but by controlling that character through the story, you'd naturally feel more connected to the story, causing it to impact the player more. So, what if we apply this to Kirby? It's great that video games are treated as a medium for showcasing emotional experiences, but it's important to remember that not every game needs to be a huge 40-hour emotional roller coaster. There is something to be said about a game that is just a short, fun time that makes you feel good. The Kirby series, to me, is one of the most feel-good type games to play without feeling like there's no substance behind it. Each game has somewhat of a unique vibe with the plot or aesthetic, but they all still feel like Kirby games at their core. Because of this, it's hard to say which Kirby game is the best. For me personally, the Kirby game that I find to be the most enjoyable to play is Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. Kirby 64 was released on March 24th, 2000 for the Nintendo 64, could you tell? It was the first 3D Kirby game, well, at least the first half 3D graphics, and it was intended to be on the Nintendo 64 disk drive, and just like 95% of the games that were made for the N64 DD, it became a normal N64 game because the disk drive failed really hard. Interestingly enough, Kirby 64 is actually the third in a trilogy of Kirby games referred to as the Dark Matter trilogy, since the villain in each of the games is some form of dark matter. The trilogy was not directed by series creator, that Smash Brothers guy, Massive Hero Soccer Man. No, they were instead directed by Shinichi Shimomura, a map designer for the Kirby games who also directed the 3 Dark Matter games, Nightmare in Dreamland, and then disappeared off the face of the earth. No, seriously, nobody knows what happened to this guy, where he went, who he was. No records exist of this guy's existence other than the credits of the games he's worked on. It's most likely that after Nightmare in Dreamland's completion, he left the gaming industry and went on to live a quiet life. Either that or he died. Fun. There's also a theory that the name Shinichi Shimomura is just an alias and he was actually Shigesato Itoi or Satoru Iwata, or even Sakurai himself. Would be cool, but there's not much evidence supporting this. So who knows, he's probably hanging out with that asshole who directed Devil May Cry 2 at first and is playing the Mean Girls DS game with him. Anyways, regardless of whether or not the director exists, these are stylistically the most distinct Kirby games, especially Kirby 64. The plot of Kirby 64 is simple, but sets the mood really well. On the distant planet of Ripplestar, there lives a society of fairy people who get attacked by dark matter one day. As they are after the all-powerful crystal, the fairy queen orders a young fairy named Ribbon to flee using the crystal. But 3 orbs of dark matter give chase. Ribbon doesn't get far as the dark matter orbs shatter the crystal with one final blow, sending Ribbon hurling towards the planet Popstar. Upon landing on Popstar, Ribbon meets Kirby, who quickly agrees to help Ribbon collect all of the crystal shards that have scattered all over the nearby planets. Similarities to Red Echidnas aside, I always dug how this is such a cute game and its plot is a little darker with a whole cute society being overrun by these scary looking eyeballs. And yet nothing feels out of place. I've never been a fan of the cute but actually is dark type games that you see a lot in the indie scene, and that's because they don't normally know how to incorporate the dark imagery in a way that feels more in place. It works in Kirby 64 because the dark imagery is limited to the villains in the game, and they are sparingly used. Not to mention that their designs are creepy but simple. They aren't to the point where they are gruesome, they're just a creepy thing that exists in this otherwise extremely cute world. And the plot itself is just cute. You gotta help an innocent little fairy collect crystals in a place where the enemies are just little circles with dot eyes and smiley faces, or little angry eyes and feet. I mean, look at the Gordos! It's so cute! The game almost has a pop-up picture book vibe without literally making that the art style. I think the brighter colors and polygonal graphics work really well with the simple and cute art style. The borders during the cutscenes and the level select being a sketchbook probably adds to the picture book aesthetic. The previous Kirby game in the Dark Matter trilogy, Kirby's Dream Land 3, had like a crayon art style that is freaking adorable, so 64 having a pop-up book aesthetic might not have been far off. For me though, what's even more memorable than the art style is the soundtrack. I don't know much about music criticism, but this is one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time. It just fits the game so well and is very memorable. Just listen. I love how it can go from upbeat and peppy to slower and more somber to fast-paced and actiony with a few sinister and intimidating tracks. Even when you get to levels that have darker tones with both the music and aesthetics, this game is just so pleasant to play. And really, the cherry on top is the fact that the gameplay is just like everything else in the game. Simple and fun. The basic Kirby gameplay is here with the abilities to float for a good amount of time and a little slide. No guard like some games have though. And of course you have Kirby's staple ability to suck up enemies and gain their ability if they have one. The spin they put on this mechanic is that you can actually get 2 power-ups and mix them together to make a new ability. So with 7 different abilities to mix and match, you get... 36 different abilities. In Kirby's Dream Land 3, you get a different version of any given power-up depending on which buddy you are with at the time. But not in this game. Kirby does it all on his own. You do have 3 buddies with you that will help out on the journey, however. Waddle Dee, who will open up holes for you and has 3 vehicle segments. Adeline, who will paint power-ups for you to take. I'd ask why she can't paint infinite power-ups, but I'm not that desperate for low-hanging fruit, though a gun would be cool. And series bad guy King DDD, who will help you navigate, and you actually get a few segments where you get to play as him. Gameplay-wise, this is a very easy game for the most part. Enjoyably easy, I might add. It took me like 4 hours to 100% this game. It's not mindless though, the enemies are threats, and some of the bosses are difficult if you try to beat them without power-ups. But yeah, this game is easy, and that might be because there really is only 2 objectives. Complete each level and collect each crystal shard. By completing each level and not having every crystal shard, upon defeating the quote-unquote final boss, Miracle Matter, you'll get an ending alluding to there being evil afoot. Get all the crystal shards and you get the real ending in which the evil is revealed, and you get to go to the secret level Dark Star to fight the true final boss, Zero Squared, or Zero 2, in which you get a unique gameplay style, which is weird, but you know what, whatever. This is a really cool boss design, both visually and audibly. The only other feature Kirby 64 has is a set of 3 minigames. Time to rapid fire review. 100-yard hop. Get to the finish line before your rivals. Press A to jump 2 spaces, B to jump 1 space. So simple, yet it's easy to screw up, so it can get intense real quick. Bumper crop bump. Collect more fruit than your rivals. Move left and right and press A to shove another player out of the way. Definitely the most frustrating out of the 3. The AI is cheap with the shove, and it's not very clear when you can actually use the shove. And checkerboard chase. Outlast your rivals by avoiding falling spaces and try to catch them in your line of falling spaces. This one is my favorite because it's really intense and requires the most strategy out of all of them. These minigames are a nice little time waster you can play with your friends. Most Nintendo 64 games had minigame compilations inside of the games, probably because the console was big on 4-player multiplayer. Pokemon Coliseum and Banjo-Tooie had extra 4-player minigames, probably for the same reason. Too bad I don't have friends. So that's all there is to Kirby 64, other than a boss rush mode I didn't get footage of. Whoops. After Kirby 64, the series continued to flourish with some really good entries, especially Kirby Superstar Ultra. But no game ever really matched Kirby 64's style, which on one hand lets it stay a unique entry in the franchise, but I would have loved to see the power-up combo system come back to be further expanded upon. Maybe add some more abilities to experiment with and new versions of previous combos to use. And when a Nintendo 64 app gets added alongside the Super Nintendo and NES ones, Kirby 64 better be one of the launch games, or else I'll probably play whatever's on it, but to me this is one of the quintessential Nintendo 64 games, and it would be a perfect launch title for a service like that. And I'll play this game all over again if it's on there, because this is one of my favorite games ever. Not complicated, cute and easy, while having darker elements and not feeling mindless to play. This is the perfect, short, chill game that I wish more games were like. This might sound lame, but I guess this is my safe space game I play whenever I need it. Ugh, okay, that's enough cute shit. I need to offset it with something like, yeah, kill those fucking demons, yeah! Please play Kirby 64.